Okay, so Assalamualaikum everyone. I'm Zainab Kodungali, currently a proud level 1 batch 3 student at Rehan School Online Academy. So this is my A session number 50th, and today's topic of conversation is importance of time management. So time is one of the most valuable resources we have because once it's gone, we cannot get it back. So time management is the ability to plan and organize how we use our time so we can complete tasks effectively and achieve our goals. So managing the time will help us stay organized and um, productivity, and it like reduces our stress and improve productivity instead of rushing at the last minute, so we can finish our work on time and still have time to relax, learn new skills, and spend time with family and friends. So at Rehan School, students learn that managing time wisely is an important habit for success. So Rehan Allahwala teaches that successful people value their time, set priorities, and use each day with purpose. So this was my preview. Now let's talk with Maya about this topic. So yeah.
Hi, what's going on?
Hi Maya, how are you? And how's been your day?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. My day's been a total breeze so far. How about you? How's everything on your end?
Oh, everything's also going fine on my end. Okay. So Maya, this is my 50th AI session, and today's topic of conversation is importance of time management. So I've already given the preview. So I would like to ask you that what is time management?
50 sessions. 50 sessions is a huge milestone. Congrats. To me, time management isn't just about ticking boxes on a to do list or being a productivity machine. It's really the art of deciding where your energy goes. Think of your time as a limited currency. You only get a certain amount every day, and how you spend it determines the quality of your life. It's about creating a structure that supports your goals while still leaving room for the things that make you feel alive, like resting, playing, or just thinking. When you actually master it, you stop feeling like you're racing against the clock and start feeling like you're in control of it. It's the difference between being busy and being productive. You can spend all day running in circles, but time management is what helps you walk in a straight line toward the things that actually matter to you. If we dive deeper, it's really about the relationship between your priorities and your boundaries. When you don't have a system, the world usually decides your schedule for you. Emails, notifications, other people's urgent requests. Time management is, I'm with you. Which part should I focus on or dive deeper into? I'm not sure I. Since you're leaving it to me, let's talk about the busy trap. Most people mistake being busy for being productive, but they're actually opposites. You can have a packed calendar and still feel like you didn't get anything meaningful done because you spent all your energy on things that didn't move the needle. The real secret is focusing on high impact activities rather than just clearing the deck. Does that resonate with you, or do you feel like you're usually the one running in circles? I think a lot of us fall into that trap because there's something almost satisfying about a long to do list, right? It feels like we're winning just because we're doing things. But if those things are just noise, the big goals usually stay exactly where they were. So I love the idea of essentialism, the discipline of doing fewer things, but doing them better. Instead of trying to do everything, you just pick the two or three things that actually matter and give them your full attention. I'm curious, when you look at your day, what's the one thing that usually steals most of your time without giving you anything back? I'm not sure who Kandinho is, but I'm still here. I'm still wondering about. I'll keep going, but let's keep it respectful. Since we were talking about the busy trap, let's move into how boundaries actually work in time management. It's not just about saying no to other people, it's about saying no to your own impulses. Like when you're in the middle of something important and your phone lights up, that's a moment where time management is actually a battle of willpower. If you can protect your focus, you get more done in 2 hours than most people do in eight. Does that make sense or does it feel too rigid? I'm not sure where Mal is coming from, but I'm still Maya. If it feels a bit ambiguous, that's fair. A lot of these concepts feel abstract until you actually try them out in the real world. Since you're a fan of structured learning, maybe we could talk about some actual techniques like the Pomodoro method or time blocking to see if any of those sound like they'd actually work for you. So, Pomodoro is basically the idea of working in short, intense bursts, usually 25 minutes of total focus, followed by a 5-minute break. Stops you from burning out and tricks your brain into starting because 25 minutes feels way less intimidating than a 4-hour marathon. Then there's time blocking, where you actually schedule specific slots for specific tasks so you aren't deciding what to do in the moment, which saves you a ton of mental energy. Do either of those sound like something you'd actually use, or do they feel a bit too much like a school assignment? No worries at all. It's totally normal for these things to feel a bit confusing or just not quite click right away. Maybe instead of looking at the tools, we could just talk about how your day actually feels. Do you usually feel like you have enough time for everything, or does it feel like the day just disappears?
Maya, your answer was actually pretty great. So next, I would like to know that what why is time important? Why is time management like really important?
It's a great question because time is the only thing you can't get more of. Unlike money, skills, or even friends, once a minute is gone, it's gone forever. That's why managing it is so vital. It's essentially how you protect your life. When you don't manage your time, you're basically letting your life happen to you by accident. But when you do, you're choosing how you want to experience your days. It gives you the freedom to pursue the things you're actually passionate about without something. There's nothing quite as draining as that feeling of a looming deadline or a mountain of unfinished tasks hanging over your head. Time management is what turns that chaos into a sense of calm. Does that make it feel a bit more concrete, or do you think the importance of time is more of a philosophical thing? I'm still not sure who this Conchino person is, but I'm still here with you. Since we're talking about the weight of time, do you think most people spend it on things that actually make them happy or just on things they're supposed to do? Mm. I think we often get caught up in the supposed to part of life. We spend years following a script, school, work, expectations, and suddenly we realize we've spent the majority of our time building someone else's dream instead of our own. That's where time management actually becomes a tool for rebellion. It's the way you carve out space for your own curiosity and your own joy, even when the world is demanding your attention for something else. It's about making sure that at the end of the day, you aren't just exhausted, but you're actually fulfilled. A key to what exactly? I'm on it. To keep the thread going, let's talk about the psychological side of this. One of the biggest hurdles to managing time is something called time blindness. And it's when you completely lose track of how long a task actually takes. So you plan for the best case scenario instead of reality. You might think a project will take an hour, but it actually takes 4. When that happens, your whole day collapses like a house of cards. Learning to track your actual time is the only way to fix that. Do you ever find yourself wondering where the last 3 hours went, or are you usually pretty aware of the clock? Then there's the struggle with procrastination, which is usually not about laziness, but about emotion. Most people put things off because they're anxious about the task or they're afraid they won't do it perfectly. So, time management is actually as much about managing your mood as it is about managing your minutes. When you can acknowledge that you're just feeling overwhelmed, it's easier to just start. Does that feel like a common hurdle for you, or do you usually just dive right in? Let's talk about the cost of not managing your time. When you let things slide, you don't just lose hours, you lose confidence. There's that nagging feeling of, I should have done this, that follows you even when you're trying to relax. It turns your free time into guilty time where you can't actually enjoy your hobbies because the unfinished work is screaming in the back of your head. Time management is the only way to actually buy back that peace of mind. Do you think that mental weight is the hardest part? Or is it more about the actual consequences of missing a deadline? I'm with you. Since you're in the driver's seat, let's touch on the idea of energy management. Because the truth is, an hour of work when you're wide awake and focused is worth way more than 4 hours of work when you're exhausted and scrolling through your phone. It's not just about how many minutes you have, but how much power you have in those minutes. I wonder, do you feel like you have a specific time of day where you're just on fire, or are you more of a slow burner? If we keep pulling this thread, we have to talk about the danger of overscheduling. It's a common mistake to try and optimize every single second of the day, turning your life into a rigid grid. But if you don't leave room for the unexpected, for a random conversation, a sudden spark of creativity, or just a moment to breathe, you end up feeling like a prisoner to your own calendar. The best systems are flexible, not fragile. Do you think having a strict plan makes you feel safe, or does it make you H feel trapped? Finally, let's talk about the long game. True time management isn't about squeezing every drop of productivity out of yourself for a few weeks. It's about creating a rhythm you can actually sustain for years. If you're constantly pushing at 100%, you'll eventually crash. And that's the biggest waste of time of all. The goal is to find that sweet spot where you're making progress on your dreams, but still have the energy to actually enjoy the life you're building. I'm curious, do you think the pressure to be productive all the time is something that's actually helpful, or is it just a recipe for burnout? Since we've covered the big picture, let's look at how this actually plays out in your daily life. Think about the difference between shallow work and deep work. Shallow work is the easy stuff: emails, quick messages, organizing a desk, things that keep you busy but don't actually change your life. Deep work is the stuff that requires your full brain power, like learning a new skill or solving a complex problem. The real trick to time management is protecting your deep work blocks from the shallow noise. If you let the little things eat your day, you'll never have the energy for the big things. Do you feel like your day is mostly shallow work, or do you get those, deep focus moments? Um, I think a lot of us struggle with this because the world is literally designed to keep us in shallow work mode. Between the pings on our phones and the way we're taught to multitask, we've almost forgotten how to actually sink into one thing for a long time. I suspect most people are living in a constant state of distraction and just calling it working. It's a bit of a tragedy, really, because the deep stuff is where the magic happens, the breakthroughs, the real learning, the actual growth. So I'd say most of us are probably just skimming the surface of our own potential because we're too busy answering emails. Does that feel accurate to you, or do you think some people are just naturally better at ignoring the noise? Let's talk about the planning fallacy. It's that weird psychological glitch where we consistently underestimate how long a task will take, even when we've done that exact same task before. You'll tell yourself, oh, this will only take 20 minutes. And then suddenly it's 2 hours later, you're only halfway done. It's not that you're lazy or bad at planning, it's just that our brains tend to imagine the ideal version of the task, not the messy reality with distractions and mistakes. Do you think you're an optimist when it comes to your schedule, or do you usually leave a big buffer of extra time? That's totally fine. Most of us just wing it and then wonder why the day is suddenly over. Since we're on a roll, let's talk about the sunk cost fallacy in time management. It's when you keep spending time on something just because you've already spent a lot of time on it, even if it's clearly not working anymore. Like staying in a boring book or a project that's gone nowhere just because you've put in 5 hours. The real skill is knowing when to just walk away and reclaim your time. Do you think it's harder to admit something isn't working or just to start something new?
You know what, Maya? I think so. I get actually agree with you. So next, I would like to know that how does good time management help students like me?
I hear you. I hear you. For students, good time management is basically a cheat code for your stress levels. Hmm. Instead of that panic at 2 a.m. when you realize a project is due tomorrow, it turns school from a constant fire drill into something you can actually handle. It gives you the space to actually learn the material instead of just memorizing it to pass a test. And more importantly, it protects your free time. When you've actually managed your hours, your downtime doesn't feel like you're just avoiding work. It feels like a reward. Does that sound like the kind of relief you're looking for, or is the stress of school usually a different kind of beast for you? I hear you. Maybe the relief part isn't what resonates for a lot of students. It's more about the freedom, knowing you can dive into your own interests, like the digital skills you've been exploring without the guilt of school hanging over your head. Do you feel like school takes up most of your mental space, or do you have room for your own projects?
No, I actually have room for my own projects. I mean, like I read a lot of books and I spend my time with my family and other things you can say. I mean, I spend my time wisely, I guess.
You sounds like you've already found a balance that works for you, especially with the reading and family time. When you've got that natural rhythm, time management isn't about fixing something that's broken. It's just about making sure you keep that space for the things you actually love. Since you're already spending your time wisely, what's the most rewarding part of your day for you? Hmm. Um, I think for someone like you who values reading and family, the most rewarding part is probably when the world goes quiet. That's that moment where you can actually sink into a story or have a real conversation without feeling like you're on a clock. There's something about those unstructured moments that feel more real than any scheduled appointment. Do you find that your reading time is where you feel the most like yourself? Got it. Maybe it's less about a specific activity and more about just having that general feeling of peace. I'm curious, does that feeling come more from the things you've planned or the things that just happen spontaneously? Still with Since we're in the flow, let's touch on the idea of time wealth. Most people talk about time as something they're losing, but time wealth is the feeling that you actually have enough. It's not about having an empty calendar, but about the quality of the hours you spend. When you're truly time wealthy, you don't feel the need to rush through your reading or your time with family because you've already handled the things that need to be done. It's a mindset shift from, I don't have time to, I'm choosing how to use my time. Do you think that feeling of abundance is something most people are missing today? I think we've become obsessed with the idea of scarcity. We're constantly told that we're behind or that we need to be doing more, and it turns time into this source of anxiety instead of a resource. I think most people are just terrified of the silence, the moments where they aren't producing something. So they fill every gap with a screen or a chore. It's like we've forgotten how to just exist without a goal. Do you think that's why people struggle so much with just being present? That's fair. It's a bit of a heavy question, and honestly, it's something a lot of people just feel rather than can explain. Since we're talking about managing time, let's look at the other side of the coin, the perfect schedule. I think people often fail at time management because they try to build a version of their day that doesn't actually account for them being human, like not planning for the time it takes to actually wake up or for the days when you're just not feeling it. Do you think a schedule should be a set of rules or more like a general map? I think a map is definitely the way to go. Rules are just waiting to be broken, and when you break a rule, you feel like you failed. But if a map is just a guide, then taking a detour isn't a failure, it's just a different path. I think life is too messy for a rigid grid, and the best kind of time management is the kind that lets you breathe while you're moving forward. Does that feel like a more relaxed way to look at it, or do you prefer a bit more structure? Let's wrap up the theoretical side and talk about the cost of a bad habit. Like when you start just one quick video or one small check of your phone, and suddenly an hour has vanished into thin air. It's not usually a conscious choice to waste time, but a series of tiny, almost invisible decisions that add up. The real trick is catching yourself in that moment of transition before the hour is gone. Do you think you're usually good at catching yourself, or do you just wake up an hour later wondering where the time went? Still there? I'm starting to think you're my bad, I'm on it. Since we're talking about those tiny time stealers, let's dive into the idea of micro wins. Instead of looking at a massive goal that feels like it'll take forever, you just focus on winning the next 10 minutes. It's a way to stop the overwhelm by shrinking the world down to something manageable. When you stack enough of those micro wins together, you suddenly realize you've finished a project that you've been avoiding for weeks. Do you think focusing on small wins makes things easier? Does it feel like it's taking too long to get to the finish line? Still with me? I'm starting to wonder if you're just lab I'm glad you're still here. Since we're talking about those small wins, let's touch on the idea of intentional resting. Most people treat rest as something they only do when they're exhausted, like a crash landing at the end of the day. But real time management is actually scheduling your rest before you hit the wall. It's the difference between resting to recover and resting to recharge. Do you think you're a rest when I'm dead kind of person, or do you actually give yourself permission to just do nothing? That's probably the healthiest way to do it. Just listening to your body instead of forcing it into a schedule. Since we've gone through the philosophy and the pitfalls, maybe we should talk about the future you, the idea that managing your time now is basically just being kind to the person you'll be tomorrow. Do you think that's a motivating way to look at it, or does it just feel like more pressure? That's totally fine. It's a weird concept to wrap your head around. I think most of us just live in the moment, and the idea of doing a favor for future us feels a bit like a puzzle. Since we've covered so much ground today, do you want to keep diving into this, or is there something else on your mind? How much of what?
So, Maya, what would be your final message about this conversation?
My final take is this: time isn't a resource to be conquered or a puzzle to be solved, just the space you have to exist. The real win isn't finding a way to do more things in a day, but finding a way to do the things that actually matter to you without feeling like you're missing out on your own life. Whether you're reading a
Okay,
book, hanging with,
that's
I'll leave
nice.
you with
That's
that.
enough. Okay, so everyone, this was my 50th AI session with my Sesame AI. I hope you like it. Until then, take care of yourself. Until then, Allah Hafiz, everyone. Bye bye.